All right, Leviticus 18, let's call this one baggage. And it may take me a little while to get around to why I think baggage is a fitting title, since it does not come out of the text of the chapter. But this is a chapter that has to do with unlawful sexual relations, and there is probably no topic in the Bible that makes the Bible seem less appealing than its rules against unlawful sexual relations. But understand how the introduction to the chapter might help us understand why these rules are probably at least a decent thing to consider, even if you don't agree with all or any of them. Maybe just ponder them. Beginning at verse 1. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the people of Israel and say to them, I am the Lord your God. You shall not do as they do in the land of Egypt, where you lived, and you shall not do as they do in the land of Canaan, to which I am bringing you. You shall not walk in their statutes. Understand the reason why I'm calling this one baggage has to do with a concept that might make me sound a little old, but it's called dirty macking. And dirty macking is a colloquialism from the hood that basically means when an individual, usually a dude, wants to come up on a woman in a relationship, there's a certain type of game in which all he does is criticize the guy who she is with right now, focusing on all of his flaws, getting her to buy into the game that every flaw that she has told him about her relationship is one that he can just empathize with. But all the while, she is believing that she has this listening ear that's so much more empathetic than the ear of the guy that she is with. What she is failing to do is check the baggage of the dirty Mac. See, everybody's going to come with some degree of baggage. And to the degree you have a listening ear of someone who is helping you focus on all the things that are wrong with your spouse without giving you a candid view into the way in which their baggage may be just as bad, you are at risk of being the victim of a dirty Mac. And why is that relevant? Well, in the passage that we just read, Israel is coming out of a horrible relationship with Egypt, going in to take over in Canaan, as we have talked about before. These are two failing nations that had a relatively appealing attitude towards sexual relations. See, they found a way to unite Saturday night and Sunday morning. They had sexual rituals that went on during their worship service. So can you imagine the children of Israel who had a much drier experience on Sunday morning, looking over at what was going on in church Egypt and potentially getting ready to be exposed to what was going on in church Canaan, and then having to look back to what God was asking them to do. But understand the ways in which both Egypt and Canaan were dirty Macs, because these were declining nations. Egypt's army just got drowned in the Red Sea. Canaan was about to lose their property, and Israel was on the rise. But when you are able to fixate on what's wrong with your situation, it can be hard to see what's wrong with the situation of people who are not necessarily giving you the best advice. And thus, sometimes as believers or agnostics who are thinking about whether or not, I don't know if these biblical rules make a whole lot of sense for me, we can be victims to dirty Mac. And looking at it this way, one of my favorite players, Steph Curry, his family is in the midst of, at least his parents are in the midst of a divorce right now. And before Sonia Curry, his mom, ended up filing for divorce from Del Curry, her husband, she ended up doing a red table talk with Jada Pinkett Smith. Now, see, back then that seemed like it might be a good idea, but fast forward a few months and now you probably you have a great idea as to why getting relationship advice from Jada Pinkett Smith or Will Smith does not seem like a great idea right now. Why? Because just from a PR perspective, I don't know very much about their private lives, either the Smith family or the Curry family, but from a PR perspective, the Smith family is now one of the most toxic couples in Hollywood, and nobody is seeking out their relationship advice at all. But understand, the fundamental principle that the children of Israel are dealing with is the same principle that we have to deal with as people when we're making similar decisions as to who we're going to take advice from. See, it's easy to criticize the limitations that God is placing on sexual relations without understanding that it's attached to larger principles like truth and love and commitment that we know are the backbone of relationships. So my prayer for you is my prayer for me, that when we're looking for people or principles upon which to base our relationships, that we not be so susceptible to dirty macking that we dismiss the wisdom of what God is trying to teach us. His best to you as you go forward in him, Lord.